The other game that's about to be the greatest game ever again. Let's learn more. On RE4, they have another one of these big like Capcom interviews where they ask them a ton of questions and shit. So let's see what we can figure out from this. Best game ever again.
最初に話を受けた時は、その印象としてそのにもう名作として名高いんで。
Original's a masterpiece. A remake would be difficult. Yeah, so I didn't want to do it. That mentality is definitely very common. That's the thing that stopped Final Fantasy VII from ever getting essentially a remake earlier than we were sort of expecting. We played the original and collected the team's opinions. The consensus was that while it is still a masterpiece, looking at it today, there's still aspects we can improve upon. Yeah. Realizing that we were convinced.
光が見えたという感じですね。で、ゲームプレイに関しては、操作性の部分でちょっと独特の
one of a kind control scheme. So this is one of the first things we wanted to update. And as a game, we felt we could do more even if we remade it today. You know? We identified a few elements like that. And that's where things started. Early in development, one of the things we wanted to do was remove the QTE events. QTEs are not popular in today's games. Which is funny that it's so prevalent in Final Fantasy 16, you know, it's all over the place. I did not think players today would enjoy them. We thought about what we could implement to take their place. In the original, there's a fight with Krauser, for instance. You had to ask, if we wanted to fight with a knife in the remake, how would we do it? If we added something like a parry system, we can realize knife combat. Taking a step back, enemies like the villagers attack with weapons. You realize we can apply the parry as a core mechanic throughout the game. Thank you. Thank you. What they want done is to take those QTEs and integrate them into the gameplay. Well, that's like the goal. The raid, though, that's like the goal, right? And that's the biggest hurdle that QTEs have essentially boiled down to over the years, where it's like, why can't I actually do this, right? Why can't I actually do this shit? Can I do this? Is it possible instead of just pressing a button? Implement a system in which you can... Hold on a second. Jesus Christ. Implement a system in which you can perform those actions at any time. Dope. But when it comes down to it, I think Kadoi just likes using the knife. For some reason, it seems like it's the image... That's the image it's been given. When thinking about these things you always have with you, it's really either a gun or a knife. So I'm going to upgrade something, it's going to be one of those. For a gun, the only thing you can do with it is fire it. But with a knife, there's a variety of actions you can perform. Nice! Nice! More interesting to invest in the knife. When the parry mechanics had been implemented. At that point, I played the original. I found myself wanting to parry the original. That's good, right? Damn, that guy's poor fucking head. That's good. That's actually a good thing to hear about, where you added a mechanic that is so ingrained in the new game that going back to the old game feels weird, right? And that's usually a very good addition. It's like, you know what that addition was in Resident Evil? The 180 turn. You know, being able to flip 180 and run the other way was like, oh, thank Christ, man. The same thing with like Crimson Heads in Resident Evil Remake. It's hard to imagine that shit is not there in the OG game. There's just nothing like those two elements at all in the old game. Moments before disaster for this zombie man. Usually, ultimately, games have evolved so much since the original was released. In terms of linearity, as well as what actions have to take, games today give more choice, so it's only natural you'll feel some aspects of the original will feel outdated when played today.
まあよりまだ
So there was
進化できる
naturally
余
room
地
to
もある
updates for updates to be made.
まあ
Looking at updating the systems of RE4 in the remake,
をリメイクするのにあたってメカニクスとして改善の余地があるかなと思った
one of the places we found we could improve in terms of the mechanics was expanding the player choice and how to approach things. Lovely. Absolutely wonderful. In modern games, even regarding combat, there's more than just fighting. You can escape, you can use stealth, there's a lot of choices, yeah.
まあいろんなちょっと選
Thank
択肢
you.
があってその中でどれでいくかっていう幅がある
Are we saying we need a Leon pacifist run, right? He needs to hand over chocolates and valentines to all the villagers to convince them to remove the plagas from their body. We need a Leon pacifist run.
まあこれがうまくなかったらこっちの方がうまくいくみたいなトライアンドエラーとかっていう部分が面白さの部分でもやっぱ幅があるっていうのがよ
What is wrong with these people?
A mage build.
いい部分でもあるので、
Went back and played the OG.
原作見た時には戦闘としてすごく
Within the confines of fighting and the combat is really well done, and the choices you have when fighting are rather varied, but outside of that we felt there wasn't a lot of choice and thought there was room for updates there. Like lighting a cow on fire. Make sure there would be a factor of strategizing around whether you see when you see an enemy first, as if an enemy sees you first, starts attacking. Made it so that oftentimes the enemy starts in a state where they are aware, so that the players can choose to go stealth. Also added a bolt thrower, which doesn't do much, doesn't make a loud noise upon firing. Even if you fire it, the enemies won't be able to tell from where it was fired. Okay, so they literally added the suppressor gun, right? I'm sorry, the sleep gun, like Metal Gear 2 type shit. This gives rise to different ways to play the game. For instance, you can try taking down all the enemies without ever being alerted, which prepared quite a few of us. Wait, hold on a second. We were prepared quite a few different variations like that. Really? Okay, cool. Right for a survival horror. That's what it's called. Limiting and a large factor. For instance, in the original, you could use the knife infinitely. In the remake, we made the knife stronger, but now there's a limit to its use. The knife can actually get broken. We've done things like that to keep a sense of tenseness. The fear! In the remake, you can turn around very quickly. In the original, you had a quick turn, of course, but even so, yeah, you were still a tank in the OG one. Now quickly dodge to the side if an enemy comes at you, which is very different than the original. Really? Is there like a side dodge now? Might be the duck. It's not really going to be fun or interesting for that reason. We've intentionally made various arrangements here and there. One of the defining characteristics that makes RE4 so fun is it keeps you from ever getting bored. Damn, that's like pretty much just acknowledging that the pacing of the game is fucking immaculate. You never get bored in RE4. You can just keep playing it. And it's like, man, there's never, I don't want to stop. Goes for the original as well. Takes you from place to place, and while you're often fighting, you're also doing something new from scene to scene. You'll never feel like you're repeating the same thing. For characteristic, we felt that expanding it further was the right choice for RE4 as a game. Yeah, RE4 is a game, damn the jism rain. RE4 is a game that really engages you constantly with new shit, you know? There's always something around every turn that has you enacting with it outside of like gameplay in fascinating ways, right? And that's genuinely what makes RE4 have some of the best pacing of like games ever. And then all of a sudden, you know, while you feel it might be getting a bit drab and we're getting through this castle or something like that, here comes the minecart sequence. You know, it's like, what the fuck? In Village, you can get things like fish or meat to acquire small upgrades. We wanted to do something like that with the remake of RE4, obviously. In the end, we settled upon something completely different, but that's the subquests that have been added, yeah.
I see you took care of a request. Well done.
The flow of the original game itself is incredibly well done. Yes. For instance, the structure, the way and order enemies appear. For that general framework, there wasn't a lot we wanted to change. Oh, smart bastards. You smart bastards. You all smart bastards. We're not going to change the thing that is like the best thing in the game, which is the pacing. We're not going to change any of that shit.
ですけど、まあもう一段ずつこう
We can take each element and go deeper, though.
っていうので、
It really depends. You know, I would argue, right? And here's the funny thing. I love Resident Evil 2 Remake. Love that game. I'm looking forward to playing it again. It's been several years since I've played it, since it came out in like 2019 or something like that, right? But I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, OG Resident Evil 2 is paced better. I'll just say it. RE2 Remake's incredible. But the original Resident Evil 2 is some of the best pacing in the entire franchise. It's so much fun to play. It's not as long or as in depth or as, you know, mechanically rich, not in any way, but there's something about the pacing of OG RE2 that makes that game the easiest shit to play. It never is like boring or bad, or there's some spot that you're just like, oh, this sucks. You know when that happens in Resident Evil Remake, as well as the OG Resident Evil? When you get to the fucking shark tank, the game goes downhill a little bit, right? Regardless of it being the remake or the old one, the fucking shark area, when you go down there, the game starts to slow down a bit, and you're like, I just got to get through this shit, right? That part is low, and it's padded out even further in the remake. Those things are cool, but the game, unfortunately, I don't think carries that, like, wow, we're just going from one thing to the next. It's great. I'm having such a great time, like all this type of shit, right? New thing, great thing, new thing, like... I think RE2 still is the best one of every single Resident Evil game there is. It was only outdone by RE4, hilariously.
原作にあったホラー的な部分を今回はより
Could we make the horror elements of the original scarier? Ooh, that's lovely. They did that amazingly in RE2.
アプローチしていった感じですね。
They're always conscious of how to implement more variation.
のをちょっと意識していった感じだと思います。まあ
When the original came out, I think one of the biggest factors was how fresh the mechanics were.
受けたのっていうのはそのシステム的なその斬新さっていうのがまず一番大きくあったと思うんですよね。でそこに関しては
I knew from the start that in today's landscape, it wouldn't be possible to duplicate that.
同じものをさすがにもうやるのは無理だろうっていうのも最初から分かってたので、そこはもうあえてチャレンジではなく
We never set that as a goal. Instead, our goal is to implement evolutions that have occurred since the original was released and create a new form of RE game. We do that, we felt players would enjoy it. So that's the direction we went. Please experience RE4's updated controls. Please don't watch the video and call it a day. We'd like people to actually try playing the game with the updated controls to see how new it feels. Yeah, and that's why there's a demo! That's why we're gonna get a demo at some point! Yeah, everything is just once again reaffirming, you know, what we have felt over the past several months of seeing this game, and more has been shown on it. That Resident Evil 4 Remake is about to be the best game ever. Again. It's about to be the best game ever. All over again. Oh, how weird is it going to be if RE4 Remake comes out and it's now the best Resident Evil? Just like RE4 did back in the day. That'd be fucking weird. That'd be really fucking weird if this is about to be like the best shit ever again.